Okay, so the movie starts in Egypt in like 1912, and we're in a temple, and there's this archaeologist reading a wall and spouting off a bunch of exposition. And he's like, oh, it looks like there's an evil fireball that flies through space. It wakes up every 5,000 years. There's a single weapon in the entire galaxy that can destroy it, and it uses stones and like a person, and it's some sort of laser gun. So that's interesting, huh? And he looks up, and there's a bunch of aliens there, and he like faints, and this priest is there, and he's like of this order that follows these aliens. So this priest is like, oh, alien overlords, why are you guys here? Oh, we're the ones who made the 5 elements. I know that they can only be used here in this temple because it's all part of this giant laser gun, but we think that World War I is going to affect this one temple in Egypt. So we're just gonna take the stones away and hide them for 300 years. And the priest is like, what, you're waiting 300 years? Wait, could you come like a year earlier? Like give us some time to prep or something in case something goes wrong? And they're like, no, nothing's gonna go wrong. Don't worry about it. We'll be fine. We know what we're doing, okay? We're from space. And so they leave, they take the 5 elements with them. So then we cut to the title and it's like the 5th element. Then we cut to 300 years later and it's somewhere in deep space and there's like this black fireball in space. And there's some Earth Star Destroyer there too. And they're like, oh, we're gonna blow it up. And the president of Earth is like, yeah, do it. Blow that fireball thing up. This Earth Star Destroyer shoots some nukes in it and all it does is make the thing stronger. It like gets even bigger and badder and it like blows that ship up and it's like, I'm coming for you, Earth. And then we cut to the president of Earth and he's like, what are we gonna do? I should talk to my top advisors. And apparently the expert on space shit is a priest and it's Ian Holm and he's like, hey, Mr. President, that fireball is actually super evil. We should get all the 5 elements. They're on their way here right now. If you could just let them in, that would be awesome. And the president's like, why am I trusting the advice of a priest about astronomy? And the priest is like, don't worry about it. I've been studying this stuff for years. I'm one of the crazy religions that believes that aliens populated Earth and like evolved cavemen or whatever. So the president of Earth is like, yeah, sure, let those aliens in, who cares? So these are the aliens from 300 years ago. And, you know, they get clearance and they start flying in. And then out of nowhere, some bad guys just shoot their ship up and kill them. And like as they're crashing, they're like, oh no, we should have come a year before so we had time to prepare. So they're all dead. And the bad guys like go in there and recover a box. And they're like, yeah, we got the elements. Let's go bring them back to Gary Oldman. So then we got back to the president and Ian Holm. They get a radio call from people checking out the wreckage from the ship. And they're like, hey, everything got destroyed except there's like a severed hand floating around. We picked that up. Apparently we're at the point where technology can completely reanimate a dead corpse from a single hand. So we cut to a lab where they take this severed hand. They 3D print this person from the hand. And it turns out to be this woman. Her name is Lilu, and she kind of freaks out and escapes, and she like jumps out the side of the building. And like you gotta figure, she didn't think that she was gonna survive this. She just freaked out and was like, I'm just gonna kill myself and get this over with. This is too much of a hassle. But luckily for her, Bruce Willis was driving around in his taxi and just happened to pull up right under where she crashed. And she dropped like 500 feet, but you know, she's fine because she's like super strong or whatever. So this is where we meet Bruce Willis, and you know, you don't really need to know anything about him other than, you know, he's Bruce Willis. Like he's some sort of like ex-cop or military person. He's good at shooting guns. I mean, he's just playing John McClane in this movie. You know, it's really like Die Hard in the future. So, you know, they fly around a bit, they escape the cops, and then she like learns just enough English to be like, hey, bring me to Ian Holm. He's the priest from the crazy religion that I'm part of. So, you know, Bruce Willis busts into Ian Holm's house and he's like, hey, this is, she says her name is Lilu. I think she's the 5th element. And the guy's like, whoa, I think you're right. She is the 5th element. Oh, we got to find the other 4. So then Bruce Willis leaves. So at this point, we cut to these aliens and they walk up to Gary Oldman with this box who they think the stones are in. And they're like, hey, we got the stones. And he like opens the box and Gary Oldman's like, there's no stones in here. This box is empty. You guys are idiots. And then he blows them up and they're all dead. So Gary Oldman's like, I wonder where the stones are. You know, if I were a betting man, I would bet they're on a cruise ship and some alien lady has them. And of course he's right, because then we cut to Lilu and Ian Holm and she's like, there's this blue alien lady on this cruise ship. She has the stones. I heard Bruce Willis got some tickets. We should like see if we could tag along or something. So then we got back to Bruce Willis. He's at his apartment and then his mom calls him and she's like, what, Bruce Willis, you won tickets to this cruise and you're not going to bring your own mother? And he's like, I didn't win any tickets to any cruise. And then his doorbell rings and then this old colonel who he used to work with is like, hey buddy, guess what? You won tickets to this cruise in space. And Bruce Willis is like, come on, what's the deal? What do you guys need? And this colonel's like, we found out that we need these 4 stones and they're on this cruise ship. This blue lady has them. So like we rig rigged a contest so that you won tickets to go. And Bruce Willis is like, wait, why did you rig the contest? I mean, you guys are the world government. Couldn't you just get 2 tickets to go? And they're like, yeah, we probably could, but this way you get to meet Chris Tucker, and he's like pretty crazy. You're gonna have a blast. Here, take these tickets, go get those stones, and like link up with us later. And then the doorbell rings again, and Lilu's there with Ian Holm, and Bruce Willis is like, for no particular reason, Colonel, you need to hide in my freezer. So he throws the Colonel and his 2 subordinates into a freezer, and then like shuts the door on them. And then he lets Lilu and Ian Holm in, and they're like, hey, can we have your tickets to the thing? And then like Ian Holm just hits him over the head with something and steals the tickets and leaves. And then Bruce Willis opens the freezer door, and the Colonel and his subordinates are like frozen solid. Like they're clearly dead. So Bruce Willis is like, yeah, I'll take the job. I just got to go get the tickets because someone just stole them. So, Bruce Willis goes to the airport, and the priest's underling is trying to sneak in, acting like he's Bruce Willis. And everyone's like, you're not Bruce Willis. We saw him in Die Hard. You're definitely not Bruce Willis. And Bruce Willis pops in, and he's like, oh, hey, yeah, it's me, Bruce Willis, and this lady is my wife, I guess. So come on, Lilu, let's go. Let's go on this space cruise ship so we can get those stones. So they get on the ship, and they meet Chris Tucker. Chris Tucker is pretty much like a cartoon character in this movie. Everything he does is over the top. So they all get on the cruise ship, and then Lilu's like, I'm gonna go off on my own. I'm gonna go talk to this diva. And the diva's like, come to my room later and I'll give you the stones. I gotta go do some opera singing now. So then they cut to the opera. This blue lady that calls herself the diva just sings for hours and hours, and she just keeps singing. Then finally Gary Oldman's henchmen show up, and they shoot her in the stomach, and everyone starts running around and fleeing. They're kind of hiding off to the side, and she's like, oh, Bruce Willis, thank God you're here. The stones, they're in my stomach. And he's like, whoa, what do you mean they're in your stomach? And she's like, yeah, I hid them in my stomach. And he's like, why didn't you just bring them in a briefcase? And she's like, I don't know, it seemed like a good place at the time. And Bruce Willis is like, how did you think we were gonna get these out of you? Because like, you're just the size of a regular human. You're just blue. Like, you're asking me to jam my hand inside this bullet hole and pull them out. And she's like, I don't know, just dig around until you find those stones. I'm about to die. And then she dies. Like, Bruce Willis is just like ripping her apart looking for these stones. And at the same time, Lilu was kind of waiting by the diva's hotel room, but then Gary Oldman showed up, and he shoots her like 16 times, and she's like, oh, I'm hurt. I'm probably not dead, but I'm pretty close. So Gary Oldman's like, good enough for me. I'm pretty sure the stones are in this box. I'm not gonna look again for some reason, but I'm gonna set a timer on this bomb that's gonna give me barely enough time to escape, because I'm positive that this box that I'm holding has the stones. I'm not gonna look at them. I'm just gonna take them. So Gary Oldman runs back to his ship. Bruce Willis pulls a Die Hard for like 30 minutes. He's just like shooting bad guys, shooting them in the head, blowing things up, throwing grenades at them. Because if we know anything about Bruce Willis, this guy loves killing. So finally Ian Holm shows up, and he's like, I just saw Gary Oldman in the hallway, and he told me he shot her like 16 times. We better go get her. So, they scoop up Lilu, and they all escape with the stones. So they head out of there, and then we cut back to Gary Oldman, and he's in his ship, and he's like, okay, now that I'm secure on my ship, I'll check to see if I have the stones. And of course, he opens the box up, and he's like, there's no stones in here. Oh man, I better race back. They're probably in some other box. And then like the whole ship blows up. Like, Gary Oldman's dead. Maybe like 5 people got off. So then we cut to Bruce Willis and everyone else in the spaceship. So they go back down to that temple in Egypt. So they like go up there, and they put all the stones on the pedestals. And these stones are all like still covered in blue alien guts, but they like act like there's nothing wrong. So, each stone represents one of the rings that the Planeteers have from Captain Planet. So they have to go around and activate each one by its element. They're like earth, fire, wind, water. And they're like, oh shit. What's heart? What do we do for heart? And Lilu's like, oh shit, I'm the 5th element. I don't know how to activate my power though. You should probably just like kiss me or whatever. So, Bruce Willis and Lilu kiss. And like, then Lilu's like, by your powers combined, I am Captain Planet. And then she shoots a Captain Planet laser beam out and kills the bad guy. And they save the day. Roll credits.